Friday. It's Amelia at Polk County Public Libraries, and today I'm going to show you how to do this week's Take and Make activity for adults. So this is our craft kit. Every month we do a adult craft program, and this month we are making marbled embroidery. So I am very excited to show you how this project works. Alright, once you've picked up your Take and Make kit from the library, you'll want to go through and make sure that you have all of the materials to be successful with this project. So inside your kit, the first thing that you'll notice is the material that we'll be using for our embroidery project. This is a 7x7, or some of you have an 8x8 square of a cotton linen blend fabric. So it's a bit stiffer than just cotton. But it's not as thick as canvas, so it's going to give our project a good base, and it'll be lovely to work with. And then in the corner of your fabric you should have an embroidery needle, and this has a blunt end. After you work with it for a while, it does seem a bit sharp, but it is blunt. You can see I'm poking myself with it. It's blunt, it's not going to hurt anything. It just has to go back and forth through the fabric, and if this fell out in your bag, it may be hiding. So you'll dig through and find that. Go ahead and set that over to the side. You also have two pattern guides. One of them has your pattern broken down into sections and has a colored design through the middle, and the other one is just slightly smaller, but is essentially the same design. So we'll set those over to the side as well. Next, you can go ahead and pull out your embroidery hoop. Mine has already come apart, but you should have two pieces that are fitted together just like this. And to unhook them, you just unscrew the top, and you don't need to unscrew it all the way, and your two pieces will come free. You can go ahead and screw that back just a little bit so you don't lose the screw off the end. But this is what we'll be working on as the frame for our project. So you can go ahead and set that over to the side as well. And then the last part, and I think this is the most fun part of the project, is your embroidery floss. So this is the thread that you're going to be using for your project. And right ahead, before you get started, go ahead and lay these out kind of in a progressive, like color wheel format. It'll help you transition into your project easily. So you'll start with your lightest color on your left hand side and go all the way to the darkest color on your right hand side. And some of the colors are very similar, so you can see like these three are very close to each other. These two are very close to each other, so this will add kind of like a smooth color transition in our marbled pattern. And for the sake of sorting these, I'm going to go ahead and just scoot them up to the top part of our screen here, that we can still see them. Okay, so before we add our material to our hoop, we're going to use our fabric and transition our pattern onto our fabric. So this is a marble design, and you can see that we're going to be working in a couple of different sections, with this main yellow piece being our guide, but also our divider between the sections. So you've got section A over here, section B, and section C. And this middle piece that's kind of funky is going to be the very first piece that we embroider on our project. That way you can go ahead and determine your various sections and work from the inside out is the easiest way. So your lightest color of embroidery floss will be this yellow piece here, and then progressively working to darker colors on the outside of your project, or closer to the inside if you're thinking more like a marbled pattern. You can see over here with the letter C that your darkest piece will be that center. Okay, all right, so to transfer this pattern over to our material, you'll want to decide which pattern you want to use. So you can try, if you want, to use this this pattern that's going to fill up the entire hoop. That's up to you. I'm going to use the smaller one just so it leaves a nice round border on my project. You can see when I put it in here, it's not a big border, but it is going to kind of frame it a little bit. It's going to leave this outside rim just a neutral color fabric, and it looks really nice when it's done like that. But if you want your project completely filled, you can do that as well. When you get to the edges, you may have some difficulty, but it's ultimately up to you and what you decide. So to transfer over, you will need a pencil. And if you wash this project afterwards, your pencil marks will come out. Also, as you're working, the pencil is going to be covered up by the embroidery floss, so you don't have to worry about it showing through your project in the middle. And you want to make sure that your pencil is nice and sharp, and you're going to trace the outside of your pattern onto your fabric. And this is just giving you a guideline. Like I said, this pencil will wash out later. Okay, so there is my circle. I'll also put a zoomed in picture right here on this video so that you can see it a little bit better. But that is what it looks like. I've gone over to make it a little bit dark. And now I have to go through and make those 3 sections that we talked about. So I'm going to start drawing and tracing with this center section, and you're just outlining, okay? So if the lines are hard for you to see, you can kind of guess and make this project your own. I'm looking for, let's see, I've got to rotate my design here so that it matches my guide, and I'm going to look for this middle piece, and I think I see it. And it's right here. And it kind of comes up to a point in the middle. And it does come back over just a little bit on the side here. So that's that big piece that we were talking about is going to be the lightest shade of our project. So our lightest embroidery floss is going to be used on the center piece. Okay, this is a very important part, and this is a personal decision that you'll need to make. Some of the lines in the pattern are curved and some of the lines are pointed. The pattern uses a combination of both, and it's a great place for beginners to learn how to do pointed edges and curved edges. Personally, I've done a couple of these already, and I have found that it is way easier to do the pointed edges. So where I can, I'm going to add pointed edges. These curved edges here are really nice, but as soon as I can start adding in these pointed edges, that's what I'm going to do, because for me, that's easier. Okay, so here's some pointed edges. You can go along with the pattern, or if it is too difficult for you to see, you can kind of guess and make the project your own, which is definitely okay as well. So you can see I'm taking creative liberty here, and I'm going with my pattern. I may decide to add this little triangle later. I may leave it out. It's just a very, very small triangle there at the bottom, so I may decide to leave that out later. But the good thing about this is embroidery is a very easy project, and it's very forgiving. So, all right, I'm gonna go through and add in my lines for section A. For me, thicker lines are easier to do. I'm sure that's going to be the case for you as well, but you'll get a feel for it. After this project, you may be hooked on embroidery for a long time, so you'll have plenty of opportunities to get creative with your own patterns or make modifications to other patterns. So you can see I transitioned to those pointed edges as soon as I could, but I do have some curved ones in there as well. Okay, and you want your lines to be really well defined so that you can see them easily when you're working on your project. All right, so now I have section A and section B done. Now I'm going to add in section C. Section C has this concentrated like little island shape in the middle of it. So I'm going to start with that and then work my way out. I can kind of see it a little bit on here. It kind of looks like a diamond shape, but that's okay. And then you just keep adding rows around it. Okay, so now I have section C, B, and A. Now don't forget, right here in the middle is where we're going to start with this funky shape that goes all the way through. In your kit, you have 6 different colors. Okay, and I've tried to coordinate them for you so they're all progressively in one color family, and you can start with your lightest shade and go all the way up. Now, if you were to do this project and have more thread to work with, you can go through so many more colors. As you can see, starting here in the middle with that one section, you could progressively use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different colors. So you can add 3 more colors to this. I'm gonna alternate my colors. So once I get through all 6, I'm gonna go back to my lightest shade. So when you're finished with one color of your pattern, don't throw the extra thread away because we're gonna use almost all of your thread for this project. Okay, so be as conservative as you can, and your project will look great when you're finished. Okay, so I'm gonna move this template page out from underneath, and you can see that it looks pretty much the same. My island looks a little interesting. I've left this small dot out of the island just because it's very difficult to get that to show up, especially on your first embroidery project. If you want to give it a go, I encourage you to do that. For the purposes of this video, I'm not going to bother adding it. Okay? Okay. So the next thing that we need to do is add our material to our embroidery hoop. And this is a challenge, but you'll get through it. All right, so you want to center your circle in your embroidery hoop as much as possible. Okay, and then we're going to take this top piece, and the top piece has the screw on it, and we're going to put it over our project. You may have to loosen. I should have done that. Let me take that back off and do it again. So you're going to loosen your hoop, and that makes it wider. Okay. And when you're first putting it on, just aim to get the material inside the hoop. Okay. You'll have all this extra on the side, and that's okay. Once you get your hoop on, you can go ahead and tighten this circle back. And the reason why you want the fabric stretched over a hoop like this is so that it's easier to see, but it also so it holds the fabric in place while you're working on your embroidery project. Okay, so I've got mine pretty well secured on there. you'll feel it when it's tight enough. Okay, and this turned out pretty good. You can see that I've got the border on the outside. Don't worry too much about this right now. If your project is not completely in the center, that's okay. And if it doesn't have this white natural border of the material, that natural color, all the way around it evenly, that's okay. That's something that we'll worry about at the end when you'll want to either hang up your project or take a picture of it for Instagram. You'll want to make it look pretty. So you can also pull your fabric and stretch it, okay, to make it be more in the center. You can see how it's moving already. Okay. When you do that, your the top layer of your hoop is tempted to rise up, so make sure that you are keeping that put down. Okay, so here we are. We've got our embroidery hoop with our material on it, and it already has our pattern, which is awesome. The next thing that we need to do is thread our needle and start our project. So embroidery floss, ooh, I apologize. Embroidery floss is actually a series of 6 different pieces of string that are twisted together. And some embroidery projects will say to use 2 of these pieces. Some will say to use all 6. So this project is going to use all 6, so you don't have to worry about dividing the thread at all. Okay, and you can go ahead and slide the end off of your lightest color of embroidery floss. These skeins of embroidery floss that are inside your packet, they do not have the individual numbers on them, but normally you would want to save these, because if you were to run out of thread at in the middle of a project, you could run to the craft store like Michael's or Hobby Lobby and pick up thread that matches identically, going by the item number that's on this little barcode piece. But you really don't need it, because right now this barcode is not going to do us any good. Okay, so I'm going to pull out some thread here. I don't want it to be too long. You will need scissors for this. So I'm going to put my thread back up in my color line there. I'm going to thread it onto my needle. Oops. Okay, and you want to pull it down probably like 1/3 of the length that you cut. You want this second tail, okay, to be. And as you work, this tail will get shorter and shorter, and it'll ultimately be the end piece that you tie a finishing knot with. So we'll get there in just a second. Okay, before we start our project, you're going to need to tie a knot in the other end of your thread, and that can be just one simple knot. Okay, go ahead and leave a little bit of a tail on there. We can cut that off in just a minute. Okay, so but just one knot, and that's all we need to get started. So, and that knot is just a basic knot. I took my thread, wrapped it around my finger, and then brought it back through the hole there. Okay. Okay. So I want to find that middle piece that I was talking about, this yellow piece here. It's going to be my lightest shade of embroidery floss, and I'm going to start at the bottom. I'm left-handed, so this may be a little different for you. I tried to learn right-handed, so I don't think it really matters, but if you notice that I'm doing something different, go ahead and try to switch it up. Okay, so I've got my needle, and I've come up just at the bottom of my design here. And as I work up this design, the curved edges should not matter that much. What you're trying to achieve is perfect little, and I say perfect, loosely, so don't put too much pressure on yourself with this activity. Little railroad tracks, okay, going all the way through your project. So you'll go up one side of your design and back down the other. Okay, and it's almost like you're filling in this line here, this middle line. So I'm gonna push up my needle just past that first stitch, okay, and I'm following these pencil guide marks. Okay, and oops, and you'll get a good feel for this. It will go faster, but starting out, go slow and just make sure that you're getting those nice little railroad, I call them railroad crossing pieces, those nice horizontal lines. Okay, so keep going with that same technique all the way until we get to this middle kind of cross, okay? And that's going to be where kind of all the points intersect, right? So it goes up into the point of the, like, I guess a triangle shape, like the very point of that angle. And I'll come back and show you what to do from there. Hi everyone, I'm back and I'm to this middle section of our project. You can see my light blue thread is all the way where our point is, and my thread is pretty short. So I wanted to walk you through how to tie that off and how to add in another piece. So I've taken my needle off, and now I'm going to take this and just make one small knot. Just like our starting knot, just one small knot. I made that one too far up, so I want to try to get it as close to the fabric as I can. So I kind of hold it down. Let's see where that gets us. Okay, so that's made a very tiny little knot there. Okay, see it? There it is, super tiny. And that'll just kind of work its way into the back of our project. So it won't, you'll never see this side, but you still want it to kind of look pretty. Even if somebody does pick it up and flip it over, then they can be impressed with the back side of your project as well. So you want those knots nice and neat and the tails of the knots to be short. I'm gonna add more threads. I'm gonna get my light blue thread back out and cut another length. And thread my needle on and tie a new knot. And this is the same way that we started our project. Okay, so I pull my thread down to about the third, and I'm tying our one little knot down here at the very bottom. Okay, and I'm gonna pick up our project exactly where we left off. So right here in this corner, I'm gonna take up my thread. Okay, and rather than working this width on our project with nice long stitches, I want to make them smaller just because I think those look better. So I'm going to pretend that this part of our little line is not there. So I'm going to continue my horizontal stitches all the way up and around. Okay, when I finish that, I'm going to come back and start from our middle here and work down. But for right now, I'm just going to pretend that this is not here, and I'm going to continue working in that U shape. Okay, and that is the most difficult part of the project. From here, you'll continue to switch embroidery thread. I think I called it yarn. I did not mean to do that. Your embroidery floss, and you'll switch colors, but the process is the same. You'll just go around these curves or around the points, just like we're doing in our project now. and keep switching out your thread as you work through your marble design. And when you finish with this project, if you'll send a picture of it to jdickinson@polklibrary.org, that information is on the following slide, and you'll be entered to win a gift card to a local Polk County restaurant. Thank you.